letter Vav begins where normally you start a new section with Eila, not Ve'ela. So the Vav obviously makes a connection to the previous Torah portion, and Rashi tells us that we should not be mistaken and think, okay, there's certain laws that clearly have to be divine, okay, from Sinai. The laws of kosher, Shabbat, these are things that we wouldn't, and let's say, do it on our own. But social justice laws, that could be the consensus amongst people. They don't have to come from Sinai. And they let us know, Ve'ela Vamishpatim, these two came from Sinai as well. That even the social justice laws came from Sinai, and they have a divine origin, and that means two things: A, that they have divine origin, but also it means that even those laws that we intuit and think are logical, there's always a Torah, what I call knech, a little twist, that something that we on our own may not have come to on our own. So I want to talk about a couple of those interesting cases, just a few moments, but I just want to get into the meat of one thing, and then we'll have a little fun with different questions. Okay, so the Ve'ela Vamishpatim, these are the social justice laws. So we know Judaism was the greatest contributor to what we call today Judeo-Christian ethic, obviously. And when you think about the Jewish ethics, you think about all those wonderful things, love your neighbor yourself, the golden rule, all those wonderful things. And yet, the first thing the Torah talks about, the social justice laws, is kisikna evidivri. When you purchase a slave for yourself, like that doesn't really sit well with us, right? It doesn't sit well with us, period. But it's certainly the lead-in, the lead-in for social justice laws. If you buy yourself a slave, it's like it jumps out at you. The second thing the Torah talks about is if a father sells his daughter, really, these are things that are hard to understand, period. To include them with social justice laws is certainly confusing. To say this is the first example of social justice laws is just like bewildering. So, one idea is, and this is clearly kind of proof that really the writ law, the out the oral law, you kind of mess up big time. And these are two classic examples. Okay, so the evidivri, when you're purchasing a slave, Rashi tells us, for one or two reasons, either this person borrowed money and couldn't pay back the money, or the person stole and couldn't make restitution. So you're talking about a person that needs to pay back his debt to society. And I always joke around that there was somebody came over to a rabbi and said, "Rabbi, things are not doing too well. My business may have to fold. What should I do? I'm just panicky." Rabbi didn't have much business experience. He goes, open up the Bible, Just open the Bible. He figured, okay. Anyway, he sees him a few weeks later. The fellow is driving his fancy Porsche and everything, big smile on his face. Everything's wonderful. He said, "What happened?" He said, "Rabbi, thanks to you, everything's saved." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "We told me to open the Bible." "Yeah, so what did that do?" I said, "I opened the Bible and it said chapter 11. All right? All right? So sometimes chapter 11, right, is a way we get out of things, right? Now you follow chapter 11, of course there are many hoops to jump to get to chapter 11, but the point is the Torah says there is no such thing as chapter 11. A person must pay his debt to society. Number one, because it threatens the very fabric of society if people don't pay the debt. But number two, for your sake, you'll be more rehabilitated when you feel you've paid off your debt rather than feel that you're always on the receiving end, the recipient, you are needy, and you're never able to rehabilitate your self-esteem by, paying back what you need to pay back. So the Torah says, if you're a thief and you can't pay back, guess what? You're going to have to work it off. If you borrowed money and you can't pay back, guess what? You're going to work it off. So the word slave, I think, is a really misleading word, because obviously the word slave has all these negative connotations. This is what they call someone as an indentured servant. It basically means somebody who's really an employee for X amount of time. And the Torah is very careful. You all know the famous adage, the sages say, Misha kana eved, kana adon li'atzmo. Whoever bought himself a slave is in fact bought himself a master. Because you have so many responsibilities to the slave. The classic example is obviously if you only have one pillow, it goes to him, not to you, etc., etc. If he has a family, guess what? You got to bring the whole family into the service and to living there as well. So, on the one hand, the Torah says that this servant has to pay back his debt. On the other hand, there's tremendous amount of sensitivity how you treat this person. In fact, you're not allowed to offer him a job that's beneath his dignity or what he's accustomed to as well. It has to be something that he's familiar with and comfortable with. It's interesting because in most systems, the criminal system means you take a guy who steals and you throw him into prison with a bunch of other prisoners. One could really argue whether that's really rehabilitative or not. The Torah doesn't really have a prison system. There's a holding cell until we decide what to do with you, but there's no prison sentence, so to speak. The closer you get to that is here, where a person, and you kind of quarantine, not even quarantine, you're obligated to work for somebody and pay off debt for 6 years. But again, you bring your family with you, they're not broken up from you, the master has many responsibilities towards you. It's really a different system totally. In prison, it's the closest thing you get to it. Okay? So, that's number one.
Like a member of the household.
What?
Become a member of the
Because
household.
so much so that the Torah tells us, and after 6 years are up, he's only supposed to maximum 6 years. If he says, I don't want to leave my master, which guy says I want to leave prison? If he doesn't want to leave his master, it's obviously because he really has a great relationship and he has a good life. So why would he, right? He's given the choice. If I don't want to leave, then I have to pierce his ear. We'll talk about that in a second. If to pierce his ear, we'll see why, and he stays another 6 years, right? Stays till Shemitah, whatever the case, right? Okay. Yeah, rather. Okay. So that's one. Let's talk about the father selling the daughter. That also sounds horrific. And the Talmud says that's talking about a very specific case under extenuating circumstances. And that is when there's such extreme poverty that the father almost cannot feed his child. He's trying to find a solution for his child to put her in a better situation, and he puts her by somebody that will hopefully take care of her. In fact, may even want to marry her. In those days especially, the women didn't really have many financial, economic opportunities. So to put her in a situation where she could be taken care of was a terrific thing. Now, so it's really meant for an extenuating circumstance. That's what it's meant for. The Torah doesn't say that any other time doesn't work, but that's what it's meant for. Meaning, and there's a really important point in general, the Torah was written for healthy people. Can corrupt people corrupt the Torah? Absolutely. I'm not going to get into all the ramifications of a divorce where the husband has to give the wife a divorce, and we know that sometimes husbands can do horrific things. The Torah's not condoning that. It's not an indictment of the Torah. It's an indictment of the people that are not following the Torah. The Torah was not written for that devious, horrific monster of a person that's playing all sorts of games with her with that. In fact, we have Bezin has this leeway to ensure, that he does give the get. They could put all sorts of pressure on him to give the get. And we always have that system in play. For instance, in a different area, let's say, we know that the only time you could accuse, or rather, not accuse, but render a verdict of a person committing crime if there are 2 eyewitnesses. So in theory, people can get away with things by making sure that they're never doing anything in the presence of 2 witnesses. So the discussion is talked about, and the Rambam talks about it, that essentially, if the king or Sanhedrin feel that people are corrupting society and taking advantage of the laws, they can do everything in their power to even catch thieves that are only based on 1 witness and doing, putting them in prison, whatever they want to do to them. There is this checks and balances that allows for corrective measures, but the Torah was written for the ideal state. In the ideal state, this is what's supposed to happen. The ideal state, the father is only sending the daughter in the most extreme circumstances, and the Torah would wish it happens once every 500 years. That's what the Torah is talking about. Okay, so but then why talk about a case that's so unrealistic, or a case that the Torah doesn't even want to see happen? Why is it meant, and why be opening up these laws, social justice laws, with these cases? And the answer is like this. There's a kind of Talmudic logic which goes something like this. If you want to test the truth, see if it applies in the most extreme case. If it doesn't apply in an extreme case, it's not truth, because truth has to apply in all circumstances. I'll give you an example. Very often the Talmud comes up and the Mishnah comes up with really convoluted cases and say, really? Is this case ever going to happen? Could the Mishnah get a little more realistic? But sometimes the Mishnah chooses a case that's extreme to bring out a point. I'll give you a simple example, not so complicated. There's a Mishnah, famous Mishnah, at the beginning of Bava Metzia, everyone knows. 2 people come holding a talus, each one claiming the talus. Doesn't have to be a talus, it can be any garment, any object. Each one claims it's theirs, right? So the Talmud, at the end of the day, the Mishnah says each one gets half the talus, and they have to swear that they own half the talus. They're getting half the talus not based on compromise. That's not the major opinion. It's not based on Solomon's logic of split the baby in 2. It's based on the fact that being that each person is holding onto the talus, we view that as possession. Possession means ownership. So I see 2 people owning it, so it's possible they both own it, and then we split it in 2. So the Mishnah is really trying to drive home the point called muhsek, possession. If I go over and say, hey, that's my sweater, you can just go, prove it. The onus of proof is totally on me, because since you're muhsek, wow, is that what you bought it? Wow, okay. I know where to go for a loan. Okay, so anyways, but it goes like this. So if I say, hey, that's my sweater, you don't have to prove it's yours, because you're muhsik, you're possessing, that proves ownership, and the owners approve on me. So if the Mishnah wanted to talk about the halacha musik, the simple case, it could use a guy's holding a sweater, and I say it's mine, right? But the Mishnah specific to a case that's much more complicated, and probably not so relevant, where two guys are grabbing on the talis at the same time, but that's the biggest proof that even then we say possession means ownership. You follow? So we want to show that applies there. In philosophy, you'll find, a Jew might make this argument too. You've heard this before probably. A guy says, I believe that all morality could be based on national consensus. If a country decides something's moral and they come to a consensus, that is moral, that is acceptable. So how I challenge that, I said, oh really? So I guess you felt Nazi Germany, the morality was based on consensus. Right? So what I do, I took your concept, said, okay, let's plug into an extreme case. No. One second, if it doesn't work there, that means your statement is not true. Your statement that national consensus proves it's moral is not true, right? So I took an extreme case, that's clear, it's an extreme case, but that's why I test the truth, all right? Okay. Social justice laws are exactly about that. It's about the sensitivity to recognize people's rights, right? And treat them as such. By the way, Mishpatim always falls out and around Rabbi Sol Salanter's yard site. And Rabbi Sol Salanter, what they say was, what everyone knows, he was the master in Bein Adol Chaveret. He was extremely sensitive to people's rights. And not people's rights, and understanding that, how obligated he was. So they say it's not coincidence he passed specifically during this time, Mishpatim. They're incredible stories. I mean, I can't go on and on with the classic stories, how sensitive he was, not just to rights. A guy was davening, Shemona Esrei. Now he stood near the only open window in the shul and started getting hot stuff in the room. He yelled at the guy, "You're a thief," because you're blocking the ear of everybody else here. And he made a move in the middle of davening. Classic example, he went to a wedding and he poured the Netilas to wash his hands. Only he washed his hands once instead of twice. So he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Listen, the bare minimum halach is once. If I wash my hands twice, then now we have faucets and it's very easy to," he says, "what's going to happen? I'm going to make this guy go schlep, fill up another pail just for me, because I want to be machmer extra stringent on his cheshbon. I do it on my cheshbon, not on his cheshbon." Somebody, and I'm just rattling off two that come to mind. He's walking into a home, not a home, maybe actually an apartment building, and somebody opened the door for him to let him in. So I said, "No, you first." And he said to his son, "You first." And his son went straight in first. And the guy was a little bit surprised that he didn't play this game a little bit longer. It's very simple. Really, I want you to go first. But you're holding the door open, you're letting cold air into this lobby. Who's paying for that heat? It's not me, it's not you. That's called thievery. I mean, he was on that level of understanding responsibility. I think it was him that, his wife, they didn't have much money going on in their lives, and the wife decided she's going to buy a lottery ticket. And he was very upset. He said, "I'm telling you right now, if we win, it's your money, not mine. I don't want the responsibility of how I deal with that money. There's a ton of responsibility that comes with that money. I don't want the responsibility. It's your money, not mine." Right? He was very...
Did he win?
What?
Did they win?
I don't know. I don't know.
That doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly that. By the way, that question, I always tease my students, that's a Silver Spring question. In Yiddish, is an expression, "Mefreknish akasha v'maisa." You can't ask a question on a story. Whatever happened, happened. I don't know. You don't ask a question on a story, but in Silver Spring, they don't get that part. They're always asking, okay, so what happened at the end? We don't really care. Rousseau Salanter also, somebody once came to him, and he used to be the shochet of the town. He said, "Rabbi, I'm no longer being the shochet of the town." Every town had one shochet, He said, "I'm not being shochet any longer." He said, "Why not?" I said, "It's just too much responsibility. I mean, kosher meat, not kosher meat. What am I doing? What are you doing?" He said, "I'm opening a store." Are you nuts? You know how much responsibility you have when you're selling in a store? That you're not allowed to charge extra money, or you're not allowed to overcharge, or you're not allowed to do this. You know how much responsibility? He was extremely sensitive in every one of those areas. Okay, so let's come back. The Eila Mishpatim, these are the social justice laws. Okay. And we know, I just gave you a little bit of a tour of the social justice laws that we kind of like and we appreciate. The Torah is going to begin with those people that we don't really think about. The two people lowest on the totem pole in society are the criminal and the poor. We care about those least. They get the least respect, right? The Torah therefore opens up the social justice laws with two people: the criminal, the guy who stole, and the poor, the one that the father has to sell a daughter. And the Torah goes to say how well you have to treat them. If you recall, I didn't even get to this. When the father sells the daughter, we learn the famous laws. In every ketubah, there are responsibilities that delineate that a husband has for the wife. And they're based on a pasuk, this is Torah portion, that share ksus v'nasa, the clothing, the food, the clothing, and marital relations that the husband has responsibility for a wife. Those are mentioned in this week's Torah portion, specifically when this father sells a daughter to this person who decides he'd like to marry this woman. The Torah says, well, you better be careful not to withhold any of these responsibilities. Now, even though these responsibilities apply to every marriage, the Torah cautions over here specifically. Why? Again, the Torah wants to point out, again, we're testing a truth in the extreme, that even if you want to know how sensitive you have to be to people, I'll tell you which people you have to be sensitive to. Even the criminal and the poor, they deserve your sensitivity. So the Torah specifically opens up Mishpatim laws with those two rules that we're not so comfortable with specifics. And yes, even those people who are lotus on our totem pole and the pecking order, that you have obligated, like I said, you bought a servant, you bought yourself a master, you have to treat this woman with the utmost respect like she's like any other person you marry, same thing. So the Torah specifically took extreme cases to drive home the point of the laws and responsibility of Mishpatim. That's the thing. Okay. I mentioned that if the servant says, I don't want to go free, so they pierce his ear. Right? Why? One explanation is, your ear heard at Sinai that I don't want anybody to be servants. Only to be my servants. Don't sell yourself to anybody else. The Torah doesn't really want that to happen. You should be a free man. Don't be subservient to anyone. Only serve God. Okay. And we pierce his ear because Oz is a Shema. It's kind of interesting why the emphasis Oz is a Shema, right? What's really going on over here? That your ear heard this. Okay, it's true. We saw it also. What's the so we therefore we drill his ear. What we pierce his ear? Why is that?
And what's with the door?
Oh, what's the door? Okay. So let me talk about the ear first. All right. Okay. It's also interesting that later on, the Torah portion is going to talk about the fact that if somebody blinds a servant, so you have to pay for the fact that now this servant is worth a whole lot less, because a servant that's blind really is very limited in what they can do for you. If you deafen a servant, then you have to pay for the entire servant. Now, normally, the Talmud has an expression called ani chashav kames. A blind person is like a dead person. It's because they're almost like functionless. And yet here, in this circumstance, it seems that deafening of a person is worse than blinding a person. Blinding a person, you have to pay for the sub value now that you've caused. Deafening a person, start all over again. Got to get him a whole new slave. Why is that? Okay, so let's talk about the Shema. Okay? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, Israel, God is our God, God is one. Everyone knows that? Great. I always say that America has a Declaration of Independence. We have a Declaration of Dependence. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu is our Declaration of Dependence. That's what it is. Not independence. And it's called Kabbalah, right?
You can't hear.
Right? Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemayim. We're accepting upon ourselves. In fact, the word Shema, spelled backwards, Ayin Mem Shin, is Ol Malchus Shemayim. We're accepting upon ourselves the yoke of heaven. Okay. This point I heard from Rav Hutner. It goes like this. Every sense really works two ways. Your eyes take in light. They're also very reflective. Right? The eyes are windows of the soul, as they say. Touch. I can touch and feel from you, and I can make you feel something. Right? It kind of works two ways. Right. Every sense operates two ways, except the sense of smell, sense of the ear. The ear. Right. The ear works only one way. It only takes in sound. The expression in English, even "I'm all ears," is kind of the same idea. The ear represents receiving. It's interesting when you say Shema. So the declaration of dependence is that God is our God, God is one. That's it, right? That's the declaration of dependence. Right. Shema Yisrael is just like a little intro. Hear, O Israel. But that intro, as nice as it is, you don't find it anywhere else. Hear, O Israel, eat matzah on Passover. It doesn't say that. Hear, O Israel, don't fast. Rather fast Yom Kippur. Don't say that. How come by the Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemayim, the mitzvah of accepting the yoke of heaven, begins with the preamble, Hear, O Israel? And the answer is the following. In fact, why do we cover our eyes when we say Shema? So the simple explanation is, a little more, avoid the distractions. Avoid distraction. A deeper explanation is, that being the Omach Shemayim also means we accept and we put our faith in you. So when we close our eyes, we're saying, I'm willing to forego my perception and I trust you, right? When you say, I see what you're saying, it means I understand what you're saying. So sight represents perception. So I'm willing to forego my perception and I trust you, Hashem. That's the second level. But the third level is like this. We know that when you lose one sense, the other sense becomes heightened. I'm not saying it becomes more improved, that's debatable. I think you just become more aware, become more heightened. Okay. If that's the case, when we cover our eyes, we're really pronouncing or emphasizing Shema Yisrael. Because if the mitzvah of Shema is the mitzvah of accepting the yoke of heaven, and we declare, God, we're ready to be your servants, so we emphasize Shema Yisrael, because that's the focus of a servant. The reason why when you deafen a servant, you got to give him a whole new servant, because the definition of a servant is, I'm here to listen to your marching orders. I'm here to receive. That's the whole definition of a servant is, I'm ready to receive your marching orders. You deafen a servant, you've taken away the whole concept of service. So therefore, the verse and the mitzvah of Shema, which really is Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, begins with the preamble of Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel, because that's the whole emphasis of Amdus is Shema. And that's why we kind of remind this servant, you're doing the wrong thing. You shouldn't be an eved to another person. And we show you that in the ear, that's what your eved is. There's something not quite right, that you want to remain a servant of a human being. And so therefore we specifically show a defect in the ear, which is a defect in the avdus. Because the definition of the ear, we said every sense goes two ways, except for the hearing. It only receives sound, because that's the function of an eved. And this guy is showing some sort of weakness in his perception of an eved. You shouldn't be an eved to another human being, and hence the piercing of the ear. And that's why it's Shema Yisrael, you cover the eyes to emphasize hearing. Shema, you cover the eyes, it accentuates the hearing. That's the idea of Kabbalah Zamach Shemayim. That's what's going on in this parsha. Okay? Yeah.
The word Shemi'ah means exploration, doesn't it? That what the Torah wants us to do is to explore for ourselves and come to the conclusion that there is only one Hashem in this world who created this whole universe, and not like other people who come up with all kinds of explanations that there is no God, that there is no this, there is no that. That it is up to us individually to explore it, because Hashem has given us the capacity. Because it's
but I don't know if
created
the
every one
Shema.
of
The
us.
Shema is really about Emunah more than. I'm not disagreeing that there is that concept that we have the capacity to try to understand, but Emunah kicks in where our logic ends off.
I agree with that.
Right.
No, I definitely agree. You have to have emunah for sure. But there are a lot of rabbis.
Of course, no. I'm saying that.
Have you heard about these rabbis in California? What they have done like 2-3 weeks ago?
What they do?
There's such a big, feature. They had lavish dinner. What they were serving. I sent that to you.
The tripe, yeah.
They were serving pork. To a lot of these so-called Jews who call themselves Jewish. I rather them to call themselves Jews rather than Jewish. But
they're Jewish, the kind of Jewish.
Yeah,
that's good.
Jewish. No, the Jews they are, but sadly they're just.
But it's sad. Yeah. You see, it is killing everything that we believe in. They destroy it. They dismantle. It's.
They don't destroy
it is subversive.
My wife
it is
there and
subversive.
she cries and she says,
"She's right.
Hush, look what's happening to our world."
What they were doing is...
Well, let's not go into that now. Let's not get to that. So that's really a different point. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go Mishpatim. Okay, so we said Ve'ela HaMishpatim. We said earlier that the letter Vav connects us to Sinai. Okay, so I just want to just for a few minutes we'll have a little fun. I'll go through a couple of cases, social justice laws or laws that torts and different laws, and see what you come up with. Okay, so I'm going to give you like 3 different scenarios before. Scenario number 1 is, let's say, in Eretz Yisrael, on Hanukkah, they light the menorah outside, and they have this glass case. They put over so the wind doesn't, right? They have all these, they're kind of like inverted fish tanks, essentially, right? So let's say a guy puts his case over his menorah outside, and then somebody goes on by mistake, breaks the glass. So the guy calls, and he says, I broke it, fine. Calls the serviceman. Serviceman, okay, now it costs $50 for me to come down and repair it. Okay, that's what I gotta pay. Before the serviceman actually comes down, somebody else breaks another panel, so on the other side. And he calls the serviceman again, well, I'm coming down anyway, So now the second panel, I'll charge you $30 for. So here's my question. Does the first guy got to pay 50 and the second guy got to pay 30? Or they kind of split the difference and it's 40-40? You hear the question?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Okay, think about it. Next case. You're driving, you're backing in your parking spot, and you back up into the bumper behind you, and you make a dent in the bumper. Now it happens to be that the bumper that you made a dent in, the whole bumper is a mess, and he has to replace the entire bumper anyway. Mm-hmm. So you did damage by bumping into his bumper, but he's going to replace the entire bumper anyway. Mm-hmm. Do you have to pay for the damage that you caused? Or you can make the argument, well, you're going to replace the bumper anyway, so therefore I'm off the hook. Question number 2. Mm-hmm. All right? Question number 3 was the case number 3. I don't know the case.
There was one of them.
Hold on.
The price went up.
What?
They told me that there were 2 vases, 100,000.
Oh, that's something else. That's a different case. Okay, we'll get there. Good. Next case. You have a laptop, all right? And you're typing on your laptop, and somebody comes in by mistake, knocks it up, and causes the break. But you have insurance that's going to repair it. All right? Well, assuming the insurance is not going to go up, the rate's not going to go up. Do I have to pay you? Or say, listen, at the end of the day, it's not going to cost you anything to get it repaired, so do I have to pay you or not? 3 cases. All right? They sound somewhat different, but actually your case will bring that to play as well. We talked about that once. But now I want to talk about 3 fresh cases. So what does it revolve around? The revolve around is 2 things. When I damage you, why do I have to pay? Do I have to pay because I damage you, or because it's going to cost you and I caused you a loss of money? If I have to pay you because I damaged you, well, in the case of the bumper, I damaged. In the case of the computer, I damaged. In the case of the glass, I damaged. If it's because I costed you money, well, in the case of the computer, I didn't cost you money. In the case of the bumper, I didn't cost you money. And in the case of the glass, I only cost you a $40 loss in this case, the other day, right? Because he cost you $40, right? So at the end of the day, and it happens to be it's a dispute amongst different achron. I'm not going to get into how we resolve the dispute. I'll just tell you how the Torah really kind of makes us really think about what's going on. I'll give you another example. I say to Bing that you're wearing this, what's it called, the Martha's Vineyard sweater. So I'm assuming that you have a Rolex watch as well. So you come over to me and you go, I need to watch my Rolex watch. And I'll pay you $50 to watch it. I'm going away for a weekend. I don't want to take it with me. I say, sure, you got a deal. Anyway, you come back after the weekend, go tell them, can I have my Rolex watch? I go, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I was supposed to watch it. I left it outside. We talking outside. I left it on my porch. Oh my goodness. I quickly run to the porch. It's there. Phew. So I say, here's your watch. And by the way, only $50. So you say, oh, you $50. You didn't even watch the thing. So, are you required to pay me the $50 for watching it or not?
Yes.
So
Yes?
he has to pay. You have to.
No, there's no damage. So what pay what?
Yeah, but I mean, the deal was to pay him 50.
Yeah, right. But I didn't watch it. I didn't keep my end of the deal.
Yeah, but if the watch wasn't there, you would have owed me the full cost of the watch.
Interesting. Now we're getting somewhere. That's good. That's an interesting insight. So Rabbi Kiva asked the following question: when I pay you to watch something, am I paying you to watch, and the liability is incidental, which means I'm paying you to watch. Now, if something goes wrong, now you have liability. Or when I pay you, I'm really paying you to cover my liability, which means you're basically my insurance policy. In other words, when I pay somebody to watch, is the main reason I'm paying you to watch the item, and it happens to be if you don't watch it, now you're liable, but that's incidental. Or no, I am paying you to be liable. So in this case, if you paid me $50 to be liable, as you pointed out, I would have been liable. If that watch didn't show up on the porch, I'd have to pay. So now I was your insurance policy. I got lucky. I was an idiot and I forgot to take care of the watch. Okay, but the truth of the matter is, I would have been on the hook for that Rolex watch had I not been there. And you paid me really to take responsibility. But if you say, no, I paid you to watch it, then I don't watch. Okay, so again, that's going to be the question. I'm not even getting to the answer now, but just understand how the Torah is really asking us to examine 2 ends of a thing. Yes?
Paying him to keep his eyes on the watch for a week, that's slave labor.
All right. Okay. I'm going to leave this alone for now. Okay. That's an interesting case. All right.
Rav, what happens if somebody does the same thing for, let's say, an animal, and the animal gets sick?
Yeah.
The person is not capable of doing anything about it. and the animal dies.
Well, no, he's a poshay then. He's a negligent, he has to pay. That's clear.
How? I mean, it wasn't.
What do you mean?
The fact that the animal got sick was not his negligence.
Oh, no. If let's say I left the animal outside in the worst case, right? If it's that's something called onus.
Inside and got
So,
sick.
okay. I didn't go through all the laws of shomer. If you're an onus, if it's something.
If it's honest, you're correct.
Yeah, except when you borrow something.
Right.
When you borrow, you're responsible even for an onus.
Correct.
But any other shomer, if you pay to watch it, or if you pay to watch it, you rent it,
Right.
you're not responsible for onus. Okay. It's an interesting case. A guy is in really a hurry. He's got to get home. He's left a wedding with his family of four, and they have to get home. And they missed the last bus, so they call a cab. Cab comes, says, I can't take you. Why not? Because you're only legal to have 4 people in this car. You're 5. Guy said, listen, do me a favor. If you get caught, I'll pay for that ticket. I just need to get home. He says, okay, fine. They start driving. This guy starts speeding. A cop stops him, give him a speeding ticket. As he gets speeding, he says, hey, you got 5 guys in the car. And he writes him a ticket for that also. So he drops him and says, okay, now pay me for that ticket. You said that you'd be on the hook for having 5 people. So the guy says, yeah, but that's, if the police stopped you for that. You caused the problem. If you didn't speed, he would never stop. You never stopped, you never caught. I'm not on the hook for that. What do you think in that case? Is he say, listen, you said you'd take the ticket, or no, in this case, you brought it upon yourself?
Yeah,
Contributory negligence.
Huh?
Contributory
Contributory negligence.
negligence.
Yes, contributory negligence. Okay, so I think Steinman actually held in that case that you are responsible to pay. You have responsibility because you don't. I don't have to pay because you contributed. You messed up by speeding, and had you not sped, it would have happened. I'm off the hook. Let me
Doesn't
see.
that vary state by state?
I'm talking about Jewish law. I'm not talking about.
Yeah, halacha.
I'm talking about halacha.
So
Yeah, right.
you're saying that by Jewish law, he's not responsible to pay?
You would be responsible because the guy who sped brought it on himself.
But he didn't stipulate that ahead of time. He
No, but
just said, if I get a ticket,
Okay, so there are certain things. I'm gonna get to that, but that would was understood that that it's listen. If I'm willing to take the risk, right? If you don't do anything, but if you contribute, you make it. No, I'm willing to take the risk, meaning that I don't think a cop's gonna stop you for that. But if you're Meshuggah going 100 miles an hour, I would never taken that risk. Then it's like understood. Certain things are implicit.
so
It's
let's
implied.
say,
It's implied.
so let's say,
I never made that deal. I'll take responsibility if you're going up 500 miles an hour.
Right.
It's not happening.
so the car stops short in front of the cab. The cab hits him. The cops come. They see, oh, you got 5 people. I'm going to give you a ticket for hitting the car in front, and I'm going to give you a ticket for the 5 people.
Okay, so that I wonder might be different because speeding was an act of negligence. An accident might not be an act of negligence. I don't know. It depends how
By the
you.
way,
It might be negligence.
Baba, which one of these, Baba, if the car stops in front of you, you run into him, logically, the guy in front of you is responsible, not the one that you run into.
It's a Gemara. The Gemara talks about
Exactly.
if you're carrying a beam and somebody in front of you is carrying a barrel and he stops short, right? You shouldn't stop. Right? The Gemara talks that. It's a whole different case. Correct.
The driver and the passenger, they're both Jewish in this case?
Yes.
Maybe you gotta find that.
Okay. Totally different case. This is an interesting case. It actually happened that somebody who was an immigrant came to a dentist to get some cavities filled, and this guy was working for the dentist, and he knew that this immigrant actually has the ability to get free dental service. Is he required to tell him that? Well, since the guy showed up at his dental office, he's allowed to just service him and charge him a typical service fee. Is he required to tell him? So, a few things. Number one is being that he can get it free, that might fit into the category of overcharging. You're not allowed to overcharge. So this might be called overcharge because since he can get it for free, this might be called overcharging. Number two, it could be he's obligated to tell him based on the haftarah kamach. You should love your fellows, you love yourself. You'd want somebody else to tell you that you can get a freebie, so you're obligated based on the haftarah kamacha, the same thing.
Freebie from the same dentist or from a
Different dentist. Different dentist. Right? Go different dentist and get it free. Or same dentist. Right.
Well,
And the third consideration is that if you're an employee, if your boss will find out that you're steering patients away, and you cause your loss of a job, then you actually don't have to say anything because your job, you have to take your precedence of your job over his job. You're not required to tell him that. So those are different laws of monetary laws. I'll get through one more. Oh, this is an easy one. Okay, let's do two more. Okay, so a friend invites you to a wedding, right? And it's in Israel, and you say, I'd love to come, but it's quite expensive because I'm paying for the ticket. Nice guy, pays for the ticket. Guy gets to the airport with a ticket, and the guy says, the airline says, you know what? You want to go on this flight or get bumped to the next 2 hours later? He says, I'll get bumped, and he gets $200. Who gets that $200? The guy who paid for the ticket? Does he get to say, listen, I paid for the ticket, but now it's bumped. That's my money, so I should get the thing. Or does the guy say, listen, you gave me the ticket now.
He gets to keep the money.
Does he get to keep the money? What do you think?
I think it's.
Gets to keep the money? What do you guys think? Keeps the money?
No.
No?
No.
No? Yes?
Yes.
What do you
Yes,
think?
he keeps it.
Keeps the money?
Give it back.
Give it back. But I'm not asking you what the nice thing to do is. That nice thing might be to give it back. Are you obligated is the question. Are you obligated?
I say you're not.
Okay. So you could clearly make the argument that you're not. The biggest proof is the guy chose to say, I don't want to get bumped, right? He doesn't have to get bumped. So really clearly it's up to him to make that choice. All right? Number two is the airline's really paying for the inconvenience of the traveler. So really that's where it came from. So in that case, it would seem very likely that you would the guy that got the freebie ticket could get that as well.
Is that wrong?
What?